When you're standing in a kitchen that's already cramped with a fridge, a dishwasher, and a countertop that's fighting for every inch of space, the thought of adding another appliance can feel risky. You've probably wondered if an undercounter ice maker is really worth the footprint, whether the ice it produces will actually fit the way you need it, and if the price tag matches what you'll get day after day. That's exactly the dilemma I was trying to solve when I started looking at the Scotsman SRCP035A 1SU Brilliance Undercounter ice machine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Over the next few minutes I'm going to walk through the real-world setup, the everyday workflow, and the hidden trade-offs that most shoppers don't see on the spec sheet, so you can decide if this unit is the right fit for your home or your business. First off, the biggest question for most buyers is, do I really need an undercounter ice maker instead of just a bag of ice from the store? If you entertain parties, run a small bar at home, host weekly game nights, or need a steady stream of ice for a medical office, the daily output of 35 pounds is a solid middle ground. It's not a commercial-grade machine that churns out hundreds of pounds, but it also isn't the tiny countertop models that only make a few cubes an hour. In practice, that capacity translates to roughly 150 extra-large cubes per day, which is plenty for a family of 4 that likes chilled drinks or for a small gathering of 10 to 15 people. If your usage is limited to occasional drinks or you're okay with buying pre-filled bags once a week, you'll probably find the investment unnecessary. Installation is where the Scotsman makes a quiet promise. The unit is built for panel-ready stainless steel finishes, which means you can actually hide it behind a cabinet front to keep the kitchen looking seamless. The dimensions are compact, about the size of a narrow dishwasher drawer, so it fits into most standard 24-inch undercounter spaces without forcing you to remodel. I spent a Saturday morning measuring the space behind my pantry door, and the unit slipped in with a little wiggle room for the water line. The flexible installation instructions are clear enough that a DIY-confident homeowner can handle the plumbing and power connections without calling a professional, which saves a decent chunk of the total cost. That said, you do need a dedicated 110-volt outlet and a nearby drain for the meltwater pump, so make sure those are in place before you order. Now, let's talk about the ice itself. The machine produces extra-large cubes, which are the size most people prefer for cocktails, whiskey on the rocks, or even for keeping a cooler packed at a backyard barbecue. The cubes are solid enough to stay cold longer, but they're also large enough that you can't cram too many into a glass before it overflows. In my testing, a standard 12-ounce tumbler filled with 2 of those cubes stayed chilled for about 45 minutes before the water started to melt noticeably. For a casual drinker, that's more than sufficient. For a bartender who wants to keep drinks cold for longer periods, you might need to pair the machine with a separate ice bucket or a cooler. The meltwater pump does its job quietly, expelling the water into the sink's drain without creating a puddle on the floor. The 26-pound bin can hold a decent amount of ice before you have to empty it, and the pump prevents any overflow that could damage cabinets. One real advantage I discovered after a week of use is the consistency of the production cycle. The Scotsman reaches its daily 35-pound target fairly quickly, usually within 2 to 3 hours after turning on, and then continues to produce ice at a steady pace throughout the day. That means you're not waiting around for a bulk batch to finish before you can use any. The machine cycles on and off automatically, so you don't have to remember to start it in the morning. You can simply set it and let it do its thing, which is a nice set-and-forget feature for busy households. Where the machine shows its first practical weakness is in the noise level. Because it's air-cooled, there is a faint humming that you can hear when the compressor kicks in, especially if the unit is installed near an open kitchen area. It's not a loud roar, but in a quiet evening where you're watching a movie and the only sound is the TV, you'll notice it. For most people this is a minor inconvenience, but if your kitchen is also your living room, you may want to think about adding a small acoustic pad behind the unit or placing it a few inches away from the main seating area. Another point to consider is the water consumption. The built-in pump recirculates meltwater back into the machine, which means you don't waste a lot of water, but you still need a decent flow of fresh water to keep the ice clear and free of any off flavors. If you're